Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to everyone who's a subscriber to the show. We have a great interview coming up. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can get more great interviews like this one with Evan Dreucci. Evan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again. How are you doing?
Always fun having you on the show. Um, you're got a big fight coming up, 247 Fighting Championship Brawl in the Burgh 19, which will be happening December 16th. So let's just jump into it. How did this fight come together? Have you been wanting to fight on this particular card? Because 247 kind of puts their options and cards out there. Did you want to fight on the last card and couldn't get matched? What's been going on since your last time in the cage?
Yeah, I've been trying to get on the last few cards. They've been actually having a lot of trouble matching me up, and I'm actually pretty grateful. Finally, they got me a matchup. I've been itching to get back in there. I had a couple minor setbacks for October. I was supposed to fight in October, but like I said, I had a couple minor setbacks, so I couldn't really get in there in October. But they were able to get me in for this fight, which is great.
Well, I'm glad you're over the setbacks and that you're now just a few weeks away from this big fight. You're an undefeated 2-0 fighter out of Indio Dojo. I had the honor to be able to come and watch you and a couple of the guys at Indio train to do an MMA Fancast interview with some of your coaches. It's a great gym. You got a lot of fighters, jiu-jitsu guys that just do jiu-jitsu as well as kickboxers, and of course all of MMA. Really legendary coach, great gym. What's it been like training at that gym, particularly with some of the success that you've been having now that you show up and you're 2-0? Has that changed anything? Are you more excited to go and train? Kind of what's the training atmosphere like at Indio Dojo?
The training atmosphere is always amazing there. I mean, the people there are constantly pushing me, whether it be in, my MMA training, my Muay Thai training, or my jiu-jitsu training. Every single one of my teammates, they're constantly pushing me and constantly wanting me to succeed and want me to do as good as I possibly can for the fight. I actually have the opportunity to work with Yuri Villafort for this fight camp, Danilo's younger brother. He's also a legend of the game. He made it to the highest levels, the UFC, and he's been working reactive and active fighting with me. So basically, it's basically pressure fighting, and it's getting the right reactions and picking my shots better. And I think that really complements my game because if you notice my last two fights, I was able to really control that cage and get people on there on the fence. But I kind of never really picked my shots. I always would just put combos together and just overwhelm them, so it's kind of a nice little balancing act. And I'm still also working with, Mikey Hewitt and Uncle Jeff. They're my striking coaches. You met them. You got to do an interview with them.
Yeah.
Uh, they're amazing. I mean, Mikey, he's constantly playing into my strengths. He's helping me. He's teaching me different ways of playing into my strengths. And Uncle Jeff, he's always keeping me accountable. He's making sure my technique's good and my weight's on point, and just I'm not slacking off. Keeping everything good there.
Yeah, I got to meet both those coaches, and it's always exciting because we can only really see the fighters that get in the cage, but they represent a gym, and that gym is made up of the coaches, like you were talking about, which obviously game plan and train, but also sparring partners, training partners, people that never get in the cage themselves, but have a big role in preparation, whether it's just holding mitts or doing some grappling rounds or doing some kickbox rounds, whatever it is. There's a lot of behind the scene people that really help, and it's really cool. From what I remember, Coach Jeff, the striking coach. Wait, no, that's Uncle Jeff and Coach Mikey. That's right. I really remember a lot of creativity out of Coach Mikey, a lot of which I always appreciate. A lot of switch stance, a lot of comfortability because in Muay Thai or kickboxing, which MMA of course incorporates, being comfortable getting off stance because a kick, if it misses, you're in a different stance. Sometimes if it lands and slides down the person, you're in a different stance. And so I think that old boxing mindset, just the way I view things, the old boxing mindset of always staying in just one stance doesn't really work in kickboxing, and certainly makes you more dangerous in MMA when you can go from kickboxing to be able to take shots or defend shots off both sides and not having a dominant side. From what I remember from your debut, uh, when you got in there, and of course I was doing research, you're a very experienced, I believe, if I remember right, Whitfield champ in high school. What was your high school wrestling pedigree? I remember you having a big pedigree. What's that been like carrying that into MMA so far?
So this is kind of like a misunderstanding. I mean, I was a mediocre wrestler. Like I wasn't amazing, but I wasn't like, bad either. I was kind of in between. And with football, I was a little better with football. I was a little more of a standout with football. I got all conference with football. But so like people see me, they're like, look at me, and they're like, I'm an athlete, but I'm not as athletic as other people. Like, if that makes any sense. I really rely on my hard work and my dedication to get me where I need to be for the fight. And I really think that's going to show December 16th.
Well, I think, I think that humility goes a long way because sometimes when people are the greatest athlete in the room, looking at John Jones, it's tough because it can be really hard when you are the most athletic person. And I think truly athletic people still have great work ethic. I'm not dissing them, but I think that mindset that you're going to be a hard worker, you're going to train, I think it is a compliment. I've said it myself that you're an athlete when you're in there, you move very purposely, very aggressively, very explosively. So I think that goes along with you being an athlete. But I think it's also great to know, like you just said, that you got to train hard because there's always somebody better out there than you. And it's really, even in a fight, it's about figuring out a way to get the win. I know it can be cliche to say, oh, the better fighter is going to win. But the reality is sometimes the fighter who finds the way to win is going to win. And you'd rather be that guy. Like you're talking about working with Erie. And if I'm remembering right, he has fought in 247 as a pro fighter, I think, because I remember a younger brother of Danilo. I'm pretty sure if we go into the annals of 247 that Yuri Vilfort fought for 247 as a pro fighter. Pretty sure, but
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. I don't
could
know.
be wrong. Could
Yeah.
be wrong, but who cares? It was good when it came up. So, what's it been like? You had some of the setbacks and weren't able to fight, but do you feel like because the time away from the cage doesn't mean you haven't been training. I myself witnessed you training, and if I remember right, I think you guys did an hour of cardio in the parking lot prior to even getting in to do any technique. And I'm sure other gyms do that. But what is that like for you to give you the confidence? And I think that's very smart because doing cardio first wears out the nervous system, gets you kind of depleted, and then being able to perform. How much do you think that gives you an edge coming into this fight versus Jimmy
Good.
Faham?
That's a
I
good
think
luck.
PH is an F sound, right? PH has
Yeah,
got to be an F sound.
I don't know.
Fat, Fathom. Jimmy. I'm sure his mom calls him Jimmy. We're gonna call him Jimmy. Wait, no, that's not Jimmy. No, hold on. You
It's
are. I've got
Tyler.
notes scribbled.
Tyler.
No, you're against Tyler. So much easier to say. You're against Tyler Lewley, which is still a fun last name to say. I've got all the entire card written down on scribbles, and I can't even read my own handwriting. But uh, backing up before I fumbled that, hey, we're all human. What's it like with the confidence knowing that you guys are always doing cardio and then training really your cardio level is there when you go into this fight versus Tyler Lewley, who's also undefeated as a 1-0 fighter?
Yeah, that really helps give me the edge and ease my mind a little bit. I mean, my teammates, they tell me all the time. They actually tell me like you need to rest sometimes, Evan. Like you could break your body down. You got to give your body a chance to rest, and I can't. Like if I sit still, I get anxiety. Like I gotta work. So I'm putting in, I'm putting in 4.5, 5 hour days sometimes training, and 6, 7 days a week I'm constantly training. And like Mikey, his philosophy is, get, like you said, getting you tired and then working on technique. So when you are tired in that cage, your technique doesn't wear out.
Yeah, I mean that from a technique side, that makes perfect sense. Doing wind sprints. When I was a coach, I don't think I did that enough. We would do all our technique and then do like cardio burnouts, which still has benefit. But now I'm thinking, well, it probably would have been more beneficial to flip it like Mikey does or do rounds and things like that. You guys do it all. It's a very friendly atmosphere. And obviously Danilo is the main coach. It's cool that you've been working with Yuri, and every coach, every fighter, every trainer has a different style. That's why it's so important to expose yourself. I remember, and I'm going to flub his name, but I remember the night I came, there was a tall redhead. It was probably my size, maybe a little taller, maybe he fought at 175, 185 Muay Thai. How's he been doing?
Zach, yeah, he's been doing good. He had a couple fights. Yeah, he performed very well. He actually had a couple little minor setbacks too, but he's back in there, and I mean, he's a savage. He fought his fight. He had a broken thumb, went in there, fought, and then went to the doctors. They checked his thumb, and he's like, "Hey, my foot's bothering me," and they were like, He's like, "It's been bothering me for like a month now," and they're like, "Dude, your foot's broke." So he fought with a broken thumb and a broken foot, and like still put on an amazing performance. Like, yeah, he's as tough as they come for sure.
Well, I asked about him because he stood out. I know he doesn't do MMA, he's a Muay Thai guy, but he stood out from just me watching you guys spar and train, just the way he moved and obviously his physique and his hard work like you. So there's a standing invite for him to come on the show when he has once he's healed up and he has a fight coming up. I just couldn't remember the name, but that's definitely the guy. So appreciate that. I know you also are training alongside, if my memory serves it right, Ken Burrs is also a big part of that team. He's one weight class higher than you, although I think there's been a rumor that he might cut to 170. What's it like working with him? You guys are both pushing, you both push the pace type fighters. What's it like working with Ken Burrs?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure working with Ken. He always pushes me, to the limit. There's a lot of times where I'm I'm sucking wind real bad, and he just keeps putting it on me, and yeah, and I'm real grateful for that, and his wrestling experience. I mean, that really helps me out because, like I said, my wrestling's not it's not the best. Like it's good, but it's not the best, and he really helps me improve with that. And he actually, congratulations to him. He's a head coach now at I can't remember what I can't. Crap. I wish I can remember what school, but it's a pretty big school.
Oh,
College.
awesome. As
He,
a high school head coach.
collegiate. He's college. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Man, I got to reach out to him. One of the cool things about Ken Burrs is I was a resident director and he lived in the dorm when I was living there when he was a Waynesburg University student. He was a non-traditional student, already been in the Army, then came back to wrestle for Coach Headley, whose son is one of the assistant wrestling coaches at Pitt, a great lineage of wrestlers, that the Headleys. And Ron Headley, the coach, who's the father of Drew Headley, also coached a complete legend in Kerry Colott, the high school wrestling legend from the 80s, all at Jeff Morgan. So a great family. Congratulations to Ken Burrs. I'm going to have to reach out to him. Does that mean that he's not regularly training with you guys if he's a collegiate coach?
No, he still comes. He still comes.
Really?
He's still there about 4 or 5 days a week. Yeah, he's putting the work in.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because I did.
he
Yeah.
grinds. I mean, yeah, he'll come to practice sometimes, and he's dead, dead tired, but he still puts that work in and helps us out, and it's awesome. Yep,
Wow.
he was actually trying to get on this card. He was
Yeah.
unable to get matched up, unfortunately, but
What a shame. A lot of talent in Ken
he just
Burrs.
fought two. He just fought two Muay Thai and had a real good fight. He fought this.
Nice.
He he went to a split decision. He ended up losing, unfortunately, on that style promotion. His opponent was 6-0 down in Ohio Combat League, had a belt, and he put it on him. It was
Wow.
really awesome to see.
Well, that's actually, since we're talking about Ken, I think sometimes in MMA, that experience of him fighting Muay Thai is going to really help him because obviously he's a striker. He can strike, and nobody wants to get punched by Ken Burns. But at the same, because he's such a physical monster, but at the same time, his wrestling is a strength. And for a lot of people, that's what you need to do. If you're a striker, you need to do jiu-jitsu tournaments before you enter MMA. So that way it's not the first time somebody's trying to choke you, right? It's vice versa. If you're a wrestler, grappler, you need to take kickboxing, Muay Thai, or boxing to kind of force yourself out of your habits. That's a really great thing he did. Obviously, even without knowing the college that he's a head coach of, congratulations to Ken Burrs. What an incredible thing that is. And to still be training himself, even when he's doing all the training for the college. I'm hoping to have him on now to talk about that. But thanks so much for being able to talk about some of the guys from your gym, because obviously you're a part of the team, and part of the team is to want your teammates to be successful. But getting back to this fight, do you have a prediction or a mindset? It's nice that you're fighting a guy who's also won. You're at the point in your career you want to fight guys that have skills. That obviously it just gets tougher and tougher, particularly as you move up closer to the pro ranks. That's what you need. So he's 1-0. Obviously, it's worked out for him. You're 2-0. It's worked out for you. What do you think is going to happen in the cage December 16th?
Yeah, so we'll speak on that on the record real quick. So my coach, Danilo, he did not actually turns down 0-0 fighters. Like he wants hard fights. He wants us to fight the best fighters we can fight. We need to get that in experience, and we don't want to fight tomato cans. We want to fight and get our name out there and really show our skills. And I'm really glad that he does that, because that pushes me even harder. And like I said, my mindset, I just promise you one thing: when I step in that cage, my last two fights, I will always put on a show every time I step in that cage. And win or lose, I'm going to impose my will on my opponent, and he's going to know he's been in a fight.
Yeah, and you mean that? You fought that way. Your very first fight was against a very tough, durable guy that we had seen, and he was undefeated 1-0 at the time, Sam Wabi. Then you fought a guy who, it was still a great fight, but I do think it's a testament to your coach for turning down 0-0 fights. And that's not to be an insult. We're not trying to insult anybody, but part of getting better is fighting people who's had success, because if you're only fighting, and of course your first fight was against a guy who had success. Now you're fighting against a guy who had success. So it's a compliment to everyone involved to do that. And your opponent looks like, and I can only see what Tapology has, looks like he won in round 1 of his debut as a rear naked choke submission. And that was just a couple months ago in July. So hats off to him for kind of being successful in his debut. Does that give you anything to think about, since most fights end up on the ground? You obviously have wrestling. We were just talking about jiu-jitsu. You train with a world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt who's Brazilian, who's trained at the highest level, competed at the highest level. What confidence do you have against going up against a guy who obviously has the ability to finish people on the ground?
Yeah, I'm completely confident. Like I said, you said my coaches, they're world class, and they really, really hone in on me perfecting my technique. And my teammates, like I said, in jiu-jitsu, I just came back today. I had it was a grappling day, and they pushed me to the limit today. And every single round I have is a dog fight, and I love it. And even too, like, and I know you want to have dog fights, but you also want to have you want to go against less experienced people so you can work on your technique. And I've been doing that as well. And I'm confident anywhere this fight goes. I don't skip any corners.
No, you don't. And that's a mindset that you can't really train. You've got to have the mindset that you want to really do the work. I remember when the day I visited both you and Ken Burrs, who are obviously successful, were cleaning the mats after practice. And obviously I think that's valuable. It shouldn't just be, it's great if the newbies clean the mats. I think that's great. That's humility. That's new people to the gym helping out. But it's also great when established fighters clean the gym and show that it's not just not cutting corners as far as training. It's also not cutting corners as far as being a teammate or being, or being a good member of that gym, whatever that gym happens to be. So you've always had.
Sorry.
Jump in there, bud.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, we're a family and we're a team, and we don't put anybody down, because we were all there. You know what I mean? Like 3 years ago, I walked into that gym, and the only experience I had was wrestling. I had no striking experience, nothing. And if it wasn't for them, if they were mean and disrespectful, I would have left. And I probably would have left. And I'm just so grateful that they took me under their wing, and they, and I'm where I am today. I just can't thank them enough. And so I want to be able to do the same thing and give back.
I completely agree. And Indio and several other gyms, particularly martial arts gyms, any type of gym, but particularly martial arts gyms, should be welcoming. Even if somebody never wants to take a fight, it should still be a family. They should still feel like a member of the team. It should still push themselves, sometimes mentally, physically. Accomplishing things in the gym matter to people, whether or not they ever get into a cage. And I think your gym really blends that. You've got guys that really want to experience increasing the gym, and you also got people that want to do it for fitness and those type things. So, and that blend can be very good. I remember your amateur debut. I got the honor to call it, and every once in a while, you're definitely one. Of course, your teammate Ken Burrs was one. Every once in a while, and there's several others in the area. Every once in a while, you see an amateur 0-0 debut fighter that just looks like they're already 3 or 4 fights into their career. And remember your fight? We had already seen your first opponent, Wabi, before. We knew that he was tough and durable, liked to strike, liked to scrap. You come in there, obviously from a great gym, but you were performing as somebody with multiple fights already under your belt in your debut. And I think that's hats off to you, hats off to your gym. And there's sometimes fighters get in there 0-0 and they look 0-0, and that's okay because you got to learn and you got to figure it out. That's no insult to anybody. But every once in a while, you and others, I remember on the very first 247 card, I had the honor of being there from the beginning. And now he's a former bantamweight champ. But Cam the Mallrat Allgaier was a guy who was 0-0 and was obviously fighting. He just looked like he had more experience, even though he was an 0-0. And that's a compliment because he went 5-0 before his first loss, or maybe 6-0. So, and that's kind of what you're doing. Like you want to already be above the level of entry. And now this is your last. Let me check the record real quick. I think
my last advance or my last Amy.
Yes, you knew where I was going with this. I wanted to make sure since I already made a flop. So
I've been counting down the days. Let me tell you
yeah,
that.
baby.
I'm ready to ditch those shin pads and I'm ready to ground and pound because my last 2 fights, I feel like I could have really put the hurting on them if I was able to ground and pound. But like I said, we do got to learn and there is growing pains there. But I'm ready for the next step.
Well, you took the question out of my mouth because usually when I realize somebody's 2-0, at this point you're guaranteed an advanced amateur classification, which is either 3-0 or 2-1 in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania going forward. You already said what you're looking forward to get rid of the shin pads and then ground and pound. From what I remember of your fighting style, you tend to get you tend to get somebody down while you're on their back, your arm wrapped around their waist, kind of off to the side. It probably has a wrestling term to it, but where you're in that position, is there a wrestling term to that? And how dominant do you think that'll be if you can throw? I mean, usually you work to a better position, but that position alone, that wrestler back take on the ground, sort of off to the side with the waist cinched, could be really dominant from striking. So talk about that position because I think you've gotten there in every fight.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tight waist. I mean, in
Tight
wrestling
waist.
terms, but I practice ground and pound from every position, and particularly my last 2 fights, they were actually both on their back. I knocked my one opponent down, Sam, that third round. Hats off to him because he was very tough, but I was able to catch him and knock him down, and he actually pulled guard. And then my second opponent, same thing. I'd crack him a little bit, and then he would take a shot on me. I'd defend, and then he would pull guard. And I postured up a couple times in that fight, and dug to the body a little bit. But there's only so much you can do. That's why I was so impressed with Hoot Lee's fight. He was able to finish somebody just striking to the body, and that's really saying something because that's hard to do.
Yeah, and then obviously for you, it's great that you've got one more fight. You can fight the rule set. You can make the rule set work for you. But obviously, it'll be real awesome to see what you can do with ground and pound. You brought up Hoot Lee. He's only the second amateur fighter I've ever seen, and I've got to go back about 15 years from the last one I saw, which was in Philly, unrelated to 247, where an amateur fighter finished the guy on the ground with some type of body punches. It's very impressive. It does show, the fact. I mean, you could pull off something like that. Who knows? This fight hasn't happened yet. But it does show the fact that like styles matter and the way a fighter makes the style work for them is important. And Hoot Lee shows a really dominant style. You show a really dominant style. I think it's also good if you're in there and you know where you could ground and pound and then don't because of the rules. That obviously that's good for your mind too going forward.
Yeah,
When you see those openings.
Keeps you present for sure.
Keeps you present. Well, as always, it's been incredible having you on the show. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Take it away.
If I could thank some sponsors real quick, if you don't mind.
I would love you to go for it.
Bear with me a little because I have a couple notes, but so I want to thank Denny Welsh and Carmen Fayetta. They their business is Vest 88 River House, actually my hometown in Fredericktown, Pennsylvania. So they bought this place. It was Riviera, and then they remodeled it, put a lot of money into it. They remodeled it after it was like a coal mining theme because my town was really big on coal mining, and I think that's awesome that they're honoring coal miners. And they also have like they also have unique dishes. It's not your typical bar food. So sometimes when I don't feel like cooking, I'll go down there and I know they got my back. They'll have some healthy meals down there for me to eat. They summertime, it's awesome down there. They got an outdoor patio. They bring in live bands, and the service is amazing down there. Great people. It's on the river. It's awesome down there. So if people are around that area, definitely check it out. I also want to thank Mike McCormick. I train with him. He's blue belt jujitsu right now. Really tough guy, really hard worker, and his company's GRM Contracting. They do commercial and light industrial general contracting, and they service the Pittsburgh area. The projects include research labs, law firms, and multifamily residential buildings. And he busts his butt in the gym. So if he works, even half as hard as he does with his business, people are going to be in good shape. So thank you for the time for that. Appreciate it.
Well, of course, and I want to actually honestly say that it's very important. I go out of my way to make sure. Thank you. I go out of my way to make sure that people can thank their sponsors. And sometimes I just did an interview earlier tonight where I was interviewing. She's on the card, an undefeated female fighter, Kara Horde, who's taken on the local Carly Joe Thomas. Kara's undefeated, 5-0, has no sponsors coming in the fight. I was like, yo, like sponsors need to get on that, right? Like it's a great opportunity for local businesses. I understand that sometimes fighters focus so much on fighting, and they should, that sometimes, it's a little hard to get out there and get sponsorship. So hats off to everybody that sponsored you. And for anybody who's watching this and wants to sponsor somebody like Evan or the gym or whatever the situation is, get in touch with the coach, get in touch with your local gym, get in touch with Evan directly. If you're from New York, get in touch with Kara Howard. How about we get her some sponsors? But overall, it really is important, not just at the pro level, but the amateur level, to get sponsors. Not all sponsorships are straight cash. Sponsorships can be gear, can be food, can be whatever, transportation. Sometimes whatever the person and the fighter want to make work out. It doesn't always just have to be cash. Sometimes people think that way. There's all types of ways to help fighters, for sure.
Yeah, it's very hard, and like I don't think people understand sometimes like the amount of time and money that gets sunk into these fight camps. So like, yeah, when I can get some sponsors, like I'm very grateful, because it's really difficult sometimes with money and everything. And like you said, not even money, just support period, whether it be like you said, food or anything like that. Anything helps, honestly.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, I appreciate you. It's always been great. I remember the first time you came on the show before your first ever debut fight. I never know how those are going to go. It's been great following you so far. The Monroeville Convention Center is a big place, but it's selling out. It's truly selling out, or at least getting closer to having limited seats. So I hope people are buying tickets from you, from Indio Dojo. It'll be a great event. It's the year-end event, December 16th for 247. It's been an incredible 2023. And I believe that 247 does. Last year was the first ever 247 awards for the year. How much are you aware of that? Did you watch last year? And what are your thoughts? You've got this fight. We'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts as far as Gym of the Year? Gym of the Year is up for grabs again. Coach of the Year is up for grabs again. Amateur Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year. So many different awards that really matter to local MMA 247. I think it does a great job of putting that award show on. And so let's end on the award show, because this is the last time people have to impress for the awards.
Yeah, I was nominated my first fight. I was nominated for Fight of the Year. I didn't win it, but that was just an honor there, just being nominated, especially since it was my first fight. And I don't look too far into that. I kind of just focus on what's in front of me and performing the best I can and getting that win. But Coach Mikey actually was very vocal this last couple of weeks about next year and our goal for next year, and how we're not going to lose a single fight next year. And he got that mindset, and he's really been ramping up the pace and everything for us, because he doesn't like to lose. So
makes perfect sense.
We get that Gym of the Year next year.
Yeah, and that is a great honor. It really is, and it's great to see coaches and fighters caring about that because it does matter, right? It's one of the cool things to see gyms take pride in that. And obviously, there's also encouragement. Any gym from Pittsburgh wants other gyms from Pittsburgh to be successful because it really is Pittsburgh versus the world. People have said that many times. There's a lot of cross training. We're not here to start gym beefs, but it is kind of great to take pride in the gym you're from. Thanks as always for taking time out to come on MMA Fancast after your long day of training. My honor to have you back on the show. I'm Luke Basin for MMA Fancast with Evan Dreucci. Always wonderful having you on the show. Can't wait to see you live in action. Brawl in the Burgh 19, December 16th for 247 Fighting Championships. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Luke. Have a good night.
You too.